Hello, everybody. I'm Joe from the GM Toolbox. It is Friday, February 17th, 2023, and this is your Black Flag Friday update. Today, Kobold Press gave us yet another update on Project Black Flag, so let's take a look. So here's this week's update from Kobold Press. This is what they're going to call a design diary with the senior game designer for Black Flag, Celeste Conowitch. So Celeste wants to do these as a monthly thing to kind of dive in on the status of the project and get her thoughts and, just updates about the project from the senior game designer's perspective. So let's dive in and see what we got here. So the first thing they kind of address here is what's the point of Black Flag, especially given the state of things now. Why not just tear up 5e and create an entirely new system? And this is one criticism I've heard from a lot of people this week, is that they were hoping to see something brand new, nothing like 5e. So why is it that they're doing this 5e clone, so to speak, instead of a brand new original system? And there's a couple of answers to that question. First, they say here that they want the monopoly on D&D to end. Having it under the control of a single corporation just doesn't feel like a good thing, especially given the recent events with the OGL. They think that by expanding and having more companies that have more variations of 5e, it kind of breaks that monopoly and gives people options on how they want to play their 5e. And 5e has been an immensely successful system, and a lot of people just really, really love it and want to see it continue. And the other point they make here is that we want 5.5e, not 1D&D. A lot of people, myself included, feel that 1D&D is not going to maintain that backwards compatibility that they promised us, and that things are just not going to work as well. All of our books that we've bought over the years, all of our 5e material is going to basically just not work as well with 1D&D as we want it to. Adventures, sure, you can plug adventures in, but I'm able to plug Pathfinder adventures into 5e. I don't really see adventures as quite as big a deal as much as things like rules and classes and subclasses and backgrounds. Things like that I want to continue to work in a new system or an updated 5th edition system. So a couple of points here is that they make is, and this is something I just said, I love D&D, I played every edition, bought hundreds of books, and my fondest memories are built on this game. I would go so far as to say, if not for D&D, I don't know if I would be here today. And I totally agree with that. For me, D&D definitely kind of shaped the course of who I am and, things I've chosen to do with my life because of this game. So I definitely feel that. She goes on to say, I'm not ready to give it up or let the future be controlled by a single company. We know many of you feel the same way. That's why we're keeping all the good of 5e alive and to make it better. And that's why we're raising the flag to declare that we will be here to keep the candle burning no matter what shareholders plan in some distant tower. So definitely agree with all of this. Then the next part here is we want 5.5e, not 1D&D. She goes on to say that 5e rocks. It's the best edition of the game ever made. Though, as with any game, there is room for improvements. 5e has been going on for a long time in the life cycle of RPGs, and it's time to make some corrections. But I don't want to toss the baby out with the bathwater. I don't feel great about what I've seen and speculated about 1D&D thus far. I seriously doubt that 1D&D can fulfill the promise of true backwards compatibility. Again, I just mentioned this, and I definitely feel strongly in the same way. She goes on to say, I could be wrong, of course. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but it's safe to say the community has learned a lot this year and would be foolish to forget. Rather than wait for an uncertain future to unfold, why not make the upgrades we all want to see? Kobold Press doesn't want to wait. This project is taking on the issues we can fix without invalidating the thousands of dollars we've all spent on some really killer 5e product. Is that an extremely difficult needle to thread? Yes. Will it be perfect? Probably not. Is it worth trying anyway? Hell yeah. So I think that this line right here, about, we don't want to throw away thousands of dollars we spend on 5e products. We want to continue to use them. For those of us who like the system, we want to keep playing it. I think most people agree that it does need improvements. There are things that are off balance or broken or just need some tweaking, and 1D&D is not maybe doing it in the way we want. So hopefully Project Black Flag is doing that, and it really is a 5.5 edition. So the next big question, so what are we changing here, right? What's going to change? She says here, you heard me, we're changing stuff that needs to be changed and doing it in a way that respects your current 5e library and keeps it useful. That's what we mean when we say the mystic words backwards compatibility. Our goal is to change stuff and then give you clear instructions to help you keep using your current 5e material that might no longer be a perfect fit with the well-needed changes. We're also trying to do that in a way that won't make PCs and GMs want to cry in frustration. Those are all some big asks, but we're trying to do it all anyways because you, a fellow D&D lover, deserves to have it all. I love this part, especially again right here, when they say that not only are they looking to make these changes, but they want to give us a set of instructions to help us use our current 5e material in this new updated version of the system. And I think that's important. I've had a lot of people ask me that or say, you think they'll do this? Do you think that'll be something they're going to do, is say, here's how you make your other material work? And it sounds like that's exactly what they're going to do. So I really look forward to seeing that bit of text on like how I can take my Tome of Heroes book from Kobold Press and make the classes or the backgrounds or the races in there work with Black Flag, what their suggestions are to make that happen. So that's great that they plan to do that. This next part is another thing that I've seen a lot of comments about, and I'm glad they're addressing this. How Black Flag gives 5e power to the people. We've heard people say, but why? The SRD is in Creative Commons now. We invite you to re-look at the SRD and note just how much beloved 5e stuff is not in it. Do you want to play a champion fighter until the end of time? Neither do we. Here's a list of a few other things Kobold designers and I are creating as replacements for the great core rulebook bits that we all wish were in the SRD, right? So when we look at the SRD, it's a stripped down thing. We have one of each subclass. We've got a single background. Not every spell is in there. If you look at the monsters, not every monster's in there, and they don't put the lore information there for the monsters. So that's what they're addressing here. They say alternatives for the player's handbook subclasses missing from the SRD. Now, notice they say alternatives. I'm going to assume what this means is that they're going to take the existing subclasses and reflavor them, probably give them a new name for the sake of copyright, but also to maybe, update them so that their power level is on par with where those things are today. We look at newer subclasses and stuff like that. They're generally a little stronger than some of the stuff in the player's handbook, for the most part, not everything. But those things need some tweaks and some updates to how they're working. So we should see updated versions of all those subclasses for Black Flag. Reimagining the feats missing from the SRD as talents. Spoiler alert, it's all of them except Grappler. So they want to take all of our feats and everything that is not in the SRD, reproduce those as talents and update them to make them better and work better and rebalance them, which I love. Lore text for every monster in the SRD, only stat blocks are in the SRD. Again, I just mentioned that. So don't forget that Black Flag is going to be part of the Orc license, which means that everything in here is going to be open source and any publisher can then use it to publish material for Black Flag. But rather than taking the Goblin and only having access to the Goblin stat block, they will also have access to the Goblin lore information as well. Art, I don't know if art will be a part of their SRD or not. Who knows? But I like the fact that at least the lore portion will be. The next part of this talks about the playtest packet that was released earlier this week. Now, I've already done a video on the playtest packet, so if you want to deep dive on that, make sure you check out that video. I'll put the link below. But, the high-level overview of this is that they're looking to streamline presentation of information. And I think this is an important part because if you look at the player's handbook, for instance, a lot of times things can be a little muddled, a little confusing, up to interpretation. And I think they want to streamline that and say, here's what the rule is, here's how it's intended to work, and here's an example of it. So I think they're just looking to maybe cut down some of the filler fluff and really just give us good, useful, clear, concise information on the rules, which I love. The lineage and heritage no longer grants your ability score increases, which we've seen in the playtest. So now your ability scores are all determined when you roll them or when you generate them using your point buy or your standard array. Your ability scores are your ability scores. It has nothing to do with your heritage, race, whatever you want to call it. None of that information affects your ability scores. It's a separate thing. It happens before the rest of your your character creation process. So that's good. PCs now choose a lineage and a heritage rather than a race. It's broken into two parts. Learn genetic stuff and learn stuff, essentially, is how those work. They introduced the talent system, which will replace the feat system. It's broken into 3 categories, which is all good. And then every background gets a talent when you choose it at first level. So all really cool stuff there. Again, see my video for more details. The final part of this is they're looking forward. What is the design team working on now? And a few other little bits here. Mainly, their biggest piece of feedback is that people want more. They want to see more of the system because, it's hard to really determine how good this stuff works with the little bit of playtest we have. But unfortunately, that's often how playtest works. They break it into bite-sized chunks so that we can consume it, really dig into it in detail, give them feedback, and they can make adjustments that may affect some of their other production of future parts of it before they release those for playtest. So unfortunately, we do have to be patient. We have to wait. That's normal. But we will get more playtest over time. They do give us some big picture goals, though. Those being that they want to make the rules easier to read and understand, that they want to provide tools to reduce DM burden, encounter building tools, exploration encounter tools, and social encounter tools, which is great because really, if you think about 5e, we have encounter building tools, not great ones, but we have them, but we don't really have tools for those other things. They kind of teach you a little bit about how to do it, but some really nice, solid tools would be great. Next, they say they want to rebalance a whole lot of existing junk, especially feats and classes. I think we can all agree that that is much needed. They want to provide opportunities for PCs to make meaningful choices at higher levels. I think this is going to have a lot to do with talents. And, I notice now that you get an 18 at level 1 if you want it. So that might be part of that, is that by making you a little stronger earlier, maybe you're more incentivized to take talents at later levels as opposed to ASIs, or maybe you're going to get both. I'm really anxious to see how the class design is going to build out for that, but it sounds like they do want not every champion fighter or every evocation wizard to be exactly the same. They want choices to be made. And then finally, they say they want to make spell casting feel cooler. I'm kind of curious what that means, what they envision for that. I'm sure we'll see that at some point in a future playtest, but I'm definitely looking forward to all of these playtests to really see how this all shakes out over time. So that's what we have for Project Black Flag Friday this week. I think they gave us a lot of interesting information, a lot of cool stuff. I like the idea of this design diary being a monthly segment that they do, and I'm looking forward to more. So that's it for today, and until next time, raise those flags.